3 years since the 2022 NFL Draft took place. For the most part, talent-wise, this draft class has done pretty well in some regards. In other cases though, they haven't done so well. That's what I'm here for. In today's video, we are going to be redrafting the entire 2022 NFL Draft. And I realize in a lot of my videos, I do a lot of yapping, which is why a lot of you probably click off my video in the intro. So we're not going to do any of that in today's video. We're just going to get into it. Jacksonville Jaguars held the first overall pick in this draft class, and originally they took Travon Walker. Now, Travon Walker isn't a bad player by any means whatsoever. Matter of fact, I think he's way better than what he's given credit for. But in a redraft, I don't think he even goes top 5. This time around, it's pretty obvious who I'm going to pick, and I'm going to pick Aidan Hutchinson with the first overall pick here. Hutch has had an outstanding start to his NFL career to this point. In 2022, he had 9.5 sacks. In 2023, he had 11.5 sacks. And in 2024, he could have very well won Defensive Player of the Year if he didn't get hurt. He had 7.5 sacks and 45 pressures in the first few weeks of the NFL season. I think when it's all said and done though, he's probably going to win at least one Defensive Player of the Year. That might be a hot take, but it can happen in my opinion. Taking a road to the Detroit Lions, originally with this pick, they picked Aidan Hutchinson, but this time around they're not going to pick him, and I'm going to have Sauce Gardner go to the Lions with this pick. Sauce Gardner's had a down year this year in 2024, but Sauce Gardner overall is still one of the best corners in the league. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year in his rookie season, obviously, and he's been a 2-time All-Pro to this point. Not going to do any recency bias with this pick. Sauce Gardner is still one of the best corners in the league. With the Texans third overall, I'm not going to change a thing here. I'm still going to pick Derek Stingley with this pick. And I've been telling people for a while now, if Derek Stingley is healthy, he is going to be one of the best corners in the league. And look what happened. Derek Stingley is one of the best corners in the league. Only was he a Pro Bowler in 2024, but he was also named to his first All-Pro team. The Jets picked 4th overall here, and honestly, we're going to stick with defensive back here, and we're going to have them draft Trent McDuffie with the 4th overall pick. A lot of people are going to ask why I drafted Derek Stingley over Trent McDuffie. I think when it's all said and done, when Derek Stingley is healthy, I think he's going to be a better corner than Trent McDuffie. That's going to sound wild, but I think it's true. Nonetheless, though, Trent McDuffie is still a pretty good corner in his own right. He's been a 2-time All-Pro to this point, first team and second team, and he was a big part of the Chiefs Super Bowl victory over the 49ers in 2024. What I like about McDuffie is he's not going to shut down the receiver, but he's going to contain him pretty well for the most part. He's also a pretty good run defender, and for a defensive back, he is a very good tackler as well. You have the New York Giants picking 5th overall, and originally with this pick, they took Kayvon Thibodeaux. Kayvon Thibodeaux hasn't necessarily been terrible, but for a 5th overall pick, he has been a bit disappointing and hasn't lived up to that hype quite yet. So this time around, we're going to say Brock Purdy, who was originally taken with a Mr. Irrelevant pick by the 49ers. Obviously, I don't think Brock Purdy comes in here and does the success he's had on the 49ers, but he is still a way better option than Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock. In 2022, in his first season with the 49ers, as a rookie Mr. Irrelevant, he threw over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and was very close to leading the 49ers to a Super Bowl if he didn't get hurt. And then in 2023, he threw over 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, very close to winning MVP that year. 2024, his play took a bunch of a drop-off, so like the 49ers did in general though. He threw over 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Oh, again, as I said before, he is not going to do the same things he's been doing on the 49ers here, but I'm pretty sure most Giants fans, including myself, would agree they'll take Brock Purdy over Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, and even Daniel Jones. He's not on the team anymore, but might as well mention him still. Now the Panthers held the 6th overall pick in this draft class, and originally they took Ike Ekwonu. And listen, Ike Ekwonu hasn't been terrible over the past couple seasons, except for in his rookie year, but he's simply not worth a 6th overall pick at this point right now. Go ahead and get Garrett Wilson off the board here, and he's going to go to the Panthers with this pick, and he's going to get paired up with Bryce Young. He had some very bad quarterback play in his first 2 seasons with the Jets. Garrett Wilson put up for 1,000 yards in those first 2 seasons, and a combined 7 touchdowns. In 2024, he had over 100 receptions for 1,104 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he is still by far one of the better receivers in the National Football League, probably even top 10. And overall, the New York Giants originally took Evan Neal, and y'all know we're not picking that man again. They're going to steal a player from their rivals, the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm talking about Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith has been one of the best offensive linemen in the league for the Dallas Cowboys over the past couple seasons, and the fact that he can play left tackle and left guard is going to be a big reason why he is so versatile and important to the Giants in this position. Since being drafted in 2022, he was a two-time Pro Bowler in 2023 and 2024, and he was named to the second team All-Pro team in 2023. The Giants have easily upgraded at two positions in the NFL draft so far. I'm not going to trade this pick either. 8th overall to the Atlanta Falcons was Drake London, and I'm going to keep Drake London with this pick. London had a career year in 2024 with the Atlanta Falcons, putting up 100 receptions for 1,271 yards and 9 touchdowns. And this was despite the fact he had some very shaky quarterback play from Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix is as advertised during his NFL season in 2025. I think Drake London's numbers are going to go up big time in 2025. And for the second time in a row, I'm not going to change my pick here. 9th overall to the Seahawks, I'm going to have Charles Cross go back to the Seahawks. Cross had a pretty up and down NFL career to this point. In his rookie year, he was pretty decent. And then in his second year, he was pretty not decent. And then in 2024, he was one of the better offensive tackles in the NFL. Significantly better as a pass protector, and he was really good as a run blocker this year. Honestly, I didn't want to stand pat with a lot of these guys and pick the same player, but I felt like with Charles Cross, I didn't see any reason to change it, and we're going to keep it with the Seahawks here. The Jets once again at 10th overall, and I thought about stacking up on defensive backs here, but I decided not to, and we're going to pick Chris Olave with this pick. Olave is a bit of a concern because of his concussions, but I still feel like overall he is one of the better receivers in football. In 2022, he put up 72 receptions for over 1,042 yards and 4 touchdowns. In 2023, he had 87 receptions for 1,123 yards and 5 touchdowns. So when Olave is healthy, he's one of the better receivers in football. It's not Sauce and Garrett Wilson good, but they still replicate their formula pretty well here. The Jets get Trent McDuffie and Chris Olave in the redraft. 7th overall, we have the New Orleans Saints, and we're going to get Kyle Hamilton off the board here, and we're going to send him to New Orleans. Hamilton is pretty much everything you want in his safety. He can play deep safety, slot corner, and he can even play in the line of scrimmage like a linebacker if you need him to. That's what makes him so good for the Ravens. Even when the Ravens had one of the worst passing defense in the NFL early on in the 2024 season, Kyle Hamilton was not one of the reasons why, because he was back there locking down his man. He led all safeties in the NFL at one point with a 38.4% passer rating allowed. That led all safeties once again in the NFL. He also had 13 passes defended, 4 interceptions, 12 tackles for a loss, and 81 tackles. So I would say he's definitely like that. Go ahead and end this guy's slide right now. 12th overall to the Detroit Lions. We're going to have Travon Walker with this pick. I had a lot of controversy around this pick in 2022. Travon Walker has been a pretty good pass rusher in the NFL over his last 2 seasons. In 2023, he had 10 sacks, and in 2024, he had 10.5 sacks. Not only is he a pretty good pass rusher, but he is also a pretty good run defender too. We need to get a few things right. Travon Walker is no Aiden Hutchinson in my opinion, but even when you look at him, he is still a pretty good player. Like, he's not a bad player. He's not a bust by any means whatsoever. Is he a number 1 pick type of player? No, but Travon Walker is still a pretty good pass rusher and a pretty good defensive player overall. Keep it going. The Eagles are picking next, 13th overall, and I'm going to have them select Tyler Linderbaum with this pick. The perfect replacement for Jason Kelce, who is now retired. Linderbaum is one of the better interior offensive linemen in the league. However, you don't really hear too much about him because he is simply an interior offensive lineman, a position that unfortunately doesn't get a lot of love in the NFL. Plus for him though, a lot of those hosts that Derrick Henry had this season, he probably wouldn't have. And in this scenario, he's going to be playing under Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in the NFL. So he's almost guaranteed to be an all-pro player now. Ravens picked 14th overall, and obviously with this pick, they picked Kyle Hamilton, but he's gone. He went to the Saints earlier, so this time around, we're going to have them take Kirby Joseph with this pick. Still a safety, may not be as good as Kyle Hamilton, but again, kind of like I said about Travon Walker, that doesn't mean he's not a good player. Kirby Joseph was an all-pro for a good reason in 2024. He allowed a passer rating of a 25.4 and also led the NFL with interceptions with 9. Crazy part about Joseph is at one point, he was a pretty mid safety. He wasn't great, but now he has risen to elite status. He is one of the best safeties in the NFL now. And this man can do it all. Like I said, he's a ball hawk and he can lock down his man anytime he's on the field. Texans held that 15th overall pick, and the reason with this pick, they took Kenyon Green. That's not happening this time around, obviously, because Kenyon Green has been a big disappointment. So we're going to pair Nico Collins up with none other than NFL youngboy himself, George Pickens. Pickens does have a bit of a unique personality, but overall, he is still a really good receiver. Now, his numbers did drop a bit in 2024 when he had 59 catches for 900 yards and 3 touchdowns, after a season in 2023 where he had 63 catches for 1,140 yards and 5 touchdowns. Honestly, if he can keep his temper under control most of the time, he's going to be a really good receiver. But honestly, we all know that doesn't happen too much for George Pickens. EP, if you see this, you a dog man. I ain't got nothing against you, bruh, but that just had to be said. The Commanders picked 16th overall, and originally with this pick, they took Jahan Dotson, who had a pretty good rookie year, but after that, he kind of fell off a cliff. So now this time around, they're going to take Kayvon Thibodeaux, who was already taken by their rivals, the New York Giants. Kayvon Thibodeaux has had a pretty up and down career. In 2023, he had 11.5 sacks, but a lot of those sacks were off bad offensive lines and good coverage. And then in 2024, he had 5.5 sacks, but he was like top 20, top 15 in pressure rates, meaning that he was actually putting in the work to get some of his sacks this time. Problem with Thibodeaux is that he just needs to stay consistent. If he can do that, he's still going to be a really good pass rusher. He's only 24 years old. He is still really young. But going to Dan Quinn in this position is going to help him out pretty well. One of the better defensive minds in football. The Chargers are picking 17th overall, and they need some help in the edge rush department. So we're going to have them take Nick Benito. Yes, who was drafted by the Broncos. So once again, another team taking their rivals player. Benito quietly had a career year in 2024 for the Denver Broncos, putting up 48 tackles, 13.5 sacks, 33 pressures, 2 forced fumbles, 1 interception, and 4 passes defended. He also had a pretty solid season in 2023 where he had 30 tackles and 8 sacks. Not only was he a Pro Bowler in 2024, but he was named to his first All-Pro team in 2024 as well. They made 2 dumb choices at 18th overall. Number 1, they traded away AJ Brown. Number 2, they traded away AJ Brown for Treylon Burks, and he has been a big disappointment in the NFL to this point. And guess what? We're going to have another team once again taking their rivals player. We're going to have them take Bernard Raymond, who was originally taken by the Colts, who's an offensive lineman. Raymond was one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL last year in 2024, as he allowed pressure on only 3.9% of his pass blocking snaps, the lowest rate on the Colts team. Also excels as a pass blocker and also a run blocker, a good all-around offensive lineman here. The Titans have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, so help is on the way, I guess. Alright, I'm not going to let this guy drop down any further. 9th overall to the New Orleans Saints, we're selecting Zach Tom out of Wake Forest, who was taken by the Packers originally. Zach Tom has been one of the better parts of a Packers offensive line that isn't necessarily that great, but it's not terrible either. He's a pretty good pass blocker, and he is also a pretty good run blocker as well. In 2024, he allowed just 24 pressures and 3 sacks. He was really not supposed to drop down this far. There's like 2 Zach Toms on this redrafting site. One goes to San Diego State, and one goes to Wake Forest, and one I just chose. So here he is with this pick. He was supposed to go a lot earlier, but he went here to the Saints, 19th overall. 20th overall, we have the Steelers, and originally with this pick, they took Kenny Pickett. And obviously, he's not going with this pick. He's been a flat-out bust. But we are going to choose a guy who's quietly been one of the best corners in the league for a while now and doesn't get a lot of credit. We're talking about Kyler Gordon, who was originally drafted by the Chicago Bears. Ironically, just like his Washington teammate Trent McDuffie, Kyler Gordon is a guy who's going to lock down a receiver, but that's not to say he's not good against receivers he goes against. He's an amazing tackler, good against the run. Once again, another all-around defensive back on this list. He also allowed just 41 reception coverage in 2024 as well. A bit of a disclaimer here, when I say a guy isn't locked down, I mean they're not shutdown type of guys or anything like that. They can contain their receivers pretty well, but they're not going to completely shut them out of the game for the most part. So I feel like I need to put that out there, and I hope it's more explained to some of you guys now. Kyler Gordon, though, he's a very physical type of corner, and he's going to play hard every single snap. The Chiefs need offensive line help here, so 21st overall at Central Michigan, already taken by the Buccaneers, we're going to take Luke Goedeke. Godeke's one of the better run blockers at the right tackle position, and he's also a pretty good pass blocker. And the Chiefs, they need help at pretty much any position right now, so they'll take what they can get. He's a right tackle, would have preferred if he played left tackle, but right tackle is fine too for them. 22nd overall, we have the Green Bay Packers picking, and originally with this pick, they took Quay Walker, but he has not been a great pick to this point, so we went ahead and take a corner in Christian Benford, who's been a pretty good corner for the Buffalo Bills over the past couple seasons. During the 2024 NFL season, Benford allowed a 72.3 passer rating when targeted, and also allowed 0.51 yards per coverage snap. He's definitely by far one of the more underrated defensive backs in the NFL. The Bills picked 23rd overall here, and originally with this pick, they picked Kaiir Elam, who I even forget was a first round pick, that he doesn't get a lot of playing time to this point. He's been a huge, massive bust to this point. I hate to say it. So with this pick, we need to pick somebody who's going to actually make some impact. So I'm going to have him take DaRon Bland, who was already taken by the Dallas Cowboys. Fred had a great 2023 NFL season when he allowed a 31.0 passer rating and also had a league-leading 9 interceptions. He did miss a lot of the 2024 season though with a stress fracture. I think Bland is still a really good corner in this league, and I think when he comes back healthy for a full season, he'll be good again. Dallas Cowboys are up with a 24th overall pick, and originally here they took Tyler Smith, who's already gone. So with this pick, we're going to have him take linebacker Leo Chenal. Leo Chenal is the man who lines up in the middle of the field for the Kansas City Chiefs, and one of the big reasons why their run defense is so good is because of Leo Chenal. He has one of the lowest missed tackle rates in the NFL, and he's a stout run defender and also a pretty good guy in pass coverage. And since 2022, he has not missed a single game during his NFL career, playing all 17 games. So not only are you getting a really good linebacker, you're also getting a reliable guy too. The Ravens picked 25th overall, and originally with this pick, they picked Tyler Linderbaum, who's once again off the board. So with this pick, we are going to take George Karlaftis to shirt the edge position for the Ravens here. Karlaftis has been a solid pass rusher in the NFL too. In 2023, he had 10 sacks and a total of 35 pressures. And in 2024, his numbers did drop to 8 sacks and 37 pressures, but he was still pretty productive for the most part. To be honest with Karlaftis, I fully expect some of these numbers to go up big time in 2025. 26 overall was held by the New York Jets, and originally they took Jermaine Johnson with this pick. Jermaine Johnson's not a bad player, but with his torn Achilles injury, I am not going to take him in this redraft. This time around, we're going to shirt the Jets offensive line a little bit more, and we're going to have them take Dylan Parham. Parham has turned into a very good guard for the Raiders. He's a very decent run blocker, and he's also an okay pass blocker. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for being the guard that he is because he's on the Raiders, and overall their offensive line isn't really all that well. We're going to come to a Jets team that really needs some work with their offensive line. I honestly did not think Ike Ekwonu was going to go back in the first round in this redraft. However, he is for me, and he's going to go to the Jaguars 27th overall. Ike Ekwonu has definitely not been living up to the hype of his pick in the original draft, obviously. However, he has been solid for the Panthers over the past couple of seasons. He's a really good run blocker, but his pass blocking can definitely improve. And I think a move out to guard could definitely fix his career, and he can probably become a really good guard, better than he is at tackle right now. I mean, it could be a lot worse. He's not Evan Neal, where he's a cooked product and can't be fixed, which I think is the issue with Evan Neal. I don't think he can be fixed. He's just a really bad offensive lineman. 28th overall, we had the Green Bay Packers, and Devin Lloyd is going to go to the Packers with this pick. He's one of the more underrated linebackers in football. He can play as a pass rusher if you need him to, and he's also a really solid run defender. In coverage though, he can be a lot better, and I think that's what's stopping him from being a really good linebacker in football. Packers had one of the worst run defenses in football last year, so Devin Lloyd can help him out pretty well here. 29th overall, we have the Patriots, and originally with this pick, they took Cole Strange, who has proven to be a flat-out disappointment for a first-round pick. This time around, we're going to take a guy who a lot of people might not understand why I picked him this high, but I'm going to select Boye Mafe in this position. Mafe isn't a double-digit sack guy or anything like that, and I believe the only reason why he isn't yet is because the Seahawks haven't really given him the playing time he deserves. In 2023, he had 52 tackles and 9 sacks. That dropped down in 2024 to 40 tackles and 6 sacks. That's because last year he started 16 games compared to 2024 when he only started 11 games. I really think he has the potential to be a double-digit sack guy in the future, as long as he gets more playing time. 30th overall to the Chiefs. I felt like I just had to do this. Jameson Williams is going to be my 30th pick here to the Chiefs. And I know you already got a speedster and Xavier Worthy, but I feel like Jameson Williams is just the right pick for the Chiefs here. They need another weapon next to Xavier Worthy anyway, so I feel like this pick makes sense in the first place. They never have enough weapons in the NFL, and for the Chiefs, they're going to get another one in Jameson Williams here. Williams, though, I'm glad he had that breakout year he had this year, playing next to AR-14. He had over 58 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. And like I said, that's pretty impressive when you consider he's playing next to one of the best receivers in the league in AR-14. 31st overall to the Bengals, we have Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis hasn't been that player that the Eagles had hoped for when they drafted him in 2022, but let's hope for the Bengals he can become that player in this scenario. Not a great defensive lineman. There are some things he can improve on, but for the Bengals here, they don't really have anybody better on the defensive line. He still has potential as a pass rusher, but I feel like he needs to get better as a run defender, though. I think he just needs some more time to get used to the NFL system, and he'll be really good, so I'm not going to give him one of them quite yet, which is why I'm drafting him in the first round still to the Bengals. Finally, to wrap this up, 32nd overall, to the Vikings, I am going to have them draft Cam Jurgens. He proved to be a solid replacement for Jason Kelce after he retired, and in his first year as a starter, he ended up making a Pro Bowl. Back is going to be a big question mark after you have surgery on it, and we all know back problems in the NFL, they don't go too well, or even in sports in general, because you have to use your back a lot, obviously, in sports. Jurgens should be a quick pickup for the Vikings, though, pretty easily. And that is it for my 2022 redraft video. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to my channel and tap the bell icon for future football content. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and hopefully we can get there by the next couple months, or even by the next couple weeks. It all depends. Hopefully we can get there as fast as possible. We reached 1K last year, and I didn't quite get to my goal of 5K that I wanted this year, but I'm going to strive for that this year. So like I said before, if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and tap the bell icon for future football content, and follow me on all my social medias down below in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.